Fun. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nerds of Legend. I am Ben. Next to me is Brendan. Below us is Joel and Missy. And we're going to be talking about the Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. A couple things before we get started. We're thinking about a new segment for Nerds of Legend where we read bad erotica and talk about it. And give our honest reactions. Joel is really, really into this idea because he's a pervert. And
because he's a pervert.
And Ben is really
titles
because it offends his delicate side.
Titles such as Wet Hot Allosaurus Summer, Taken by the T-Rex, Ravished by the Triceratops, and In the Velociraptor's Nest.
And the greatest one ever, Unhinged, a door love story.
Yeah. So we're thinking about it. If you're interested, give us a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch and all the other places. We're probably going to do it anyway.
Recommend your raunchiest ones. We want Ben to turn red.
All right, yeah. If that's what you think that's going to happen, then sure. Also, don't forget Triceratops and Bottoms. I don't know, but the most ridiculous titles I've seen have all been the dinosaur ones. So anyway, before we get going,
not failed us in that.
You mean stuffed by the turkey wasn't enough?
I mean,
the weird turkey.
Stuffed. I mean, also stuffed by the weird turkey is in the running as well. We'll probably start with that one since we're right around Turkey Day.
Who's here for Terry Pratchett? Give it up for Terry Pratchett.
Before, let's talk about Terry Pratchett. This was my pick this week. Equal Rights. I was wrong about which Terry Pratchett novel I was suggesting. I thought it was the one where it's Granny Weatherwax has her coven of witches, but this is a pretty good... This is the third Discworld novel that was ever written by Terry Pratchett. This is the first new main character that he'd done after Rincewind. Thanks, Brennan, for giving me that little... tidbit of trivia. So the since it's my book, I'll give a short synopsis. This book follows the two different characters, one of which is Granny Weatherwax, who is a witch from the Ramtop Mountains.
Change our title. It says we're talking about D&D.
Ah, shit. Well, I'm not going to be able to. We'd have to stop and start again.
It updated. We're good.
Oh, it did?
Yay.
Oh, cool. So we've got Granny Weatherwax, who is a witch from the Ramtop Mountains. She's very set in her ways about what witchiness entails, and she delivers a baby who is then given a staff by a dying wizard before the wizard is able to be told that the baby is not in fact the eighth son of an eighth son. It is in fact the eighth it's the eighth son / daughter of an eighth son. So he didn't have an eighth son. He had a daughter after having 7 sons, and gives the staff away, and hence making Eskarina Smith a wizard. And it follows Granny and Eskarina's path. Eskarina awakens her magic potential. Granny tries as hard as she can to make Esk a witch, and is unsuccessful in many ways. So Granny decides, all right, we got to go to Unseen University in Ankh-Morpork. Lots of shenanigans ensue on their way there. Esk meets a who wants to be a boy who is showing much wizardly talent, named Simon, who can see the numbers behind the world. Basically, he can see he can see the Matrix. they end up in a bunch of different adventures. They eventually making it away to Unseen University, where all the wizards will not accept Esk into the university because she is a woman. Therefore, she cannot be a wizard. Esk throws a little bit of a tantrum because it's stupid, because there's nothing that says that that women can't be wizards and men can't be witches, just tradition at that point, which is interesting to see Granny slowly eroding her opinions on what is witchly tradition and stuff like that. Simon continues to dig too deeply into wizardly knowledge, eventually going traveling, which means going into the other side of magic where his mind is not there. Esk follows him there, and then Granny and the Arch-Chancellor Q-Tangle of the Unseen University try and save them, eventually figuring out that the best way, the greatest power in magic is the ability to not use all other forms of magic, because then you don't get to the scary forms of magic that you get the attention of, a la H.P. Lovecraft. So,
right around 3 minutes, man. Pretty concise.
Yeah, well done.
I think it's pretty good for a Discworld summary, because there's a lot of stuff that happens.
Do you remember our first Discworld attempt? It was the most...
It was bad.
It was so disjointed, because Terry Pratchett's writing is very...
dense.
Disjointed. It's very...
dense and just disjointed.
Happens, and I personally love the viewpoint. The point where she's trying to get the staff to move, and they're active, immobile, dancing.
I didn't even talk...
words I would use.
I didn't even talk about the staff. Except for at the beginning, the staff is its own character if you really look at it.
But I love the way Terry Pratchett always writes these weird little quips.
Yeah.
Down the road, just this meandering train of thought that everything kind of just goes off into the characters are. You feel like the characters are actually kind of a little bit ADD is what they all seem a little insane.
Well, they're all very, very, very pointed. They're all one dimensional. They're just reacting to the craziness that is the Discworld.
Well, I'm referring to the little extra details, at the end where they're Granny is looking and seeing the ants that have been seeped in the magic of the tower, and so the ants are building a crane system to steal sugar cubes, in which they then build a pyramid that holds all the secrets to immortality, but it was washed away the next time they washed the floors.
Yeah, and
that kind of stuff, that just unnecessary extra stuff that is just fantastic. Douglas Adams did the same thing with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Contemporaries.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Well, before we really get into it, Missy.
Yeah, I was totally looking at Missy, just wondering.
What did you think of Equal Rights?
Great to chew in.
Well, it came back at the end.
It did. I was so mad. I was like, oh, shit. I was wrong. For those of our viewers that aren't familiar with Missy's opinion on Discworld, she does not like the world turtle, the Grey Tattooin, even though I have him tattooed upon my shoulder. And she can't get past that part because it's...
Yes, you have to have the elephants. The elephants are part of the Grey Tattooin.
Excuse me. Do I have to strip for this?
Elephants getting naked.
I have it right here on my shoulder. I have the Discworld, I have the elephant, and I have the...
Show it. Prove it.
I'm pretty sure it's been shown on the show.
Look,
so you got Grey Tattooin, elephants, world.
You forgot about the elephants, or I forgot about the elephants.
No, you forgot about the elephants. You couldn't get past the turtle.
I'm pretty sure you forgot about the elephants.
Yeah, the elephants are part of the turtle. She has babies, and they have little elephants on them when they're hatched.
And one of the books is about the fifth elephant.
The look on her face was so pained.
Except one of the books is about the fifth elephant.
That fell off.
Yes.
Yeah, see? There is a serious sense of loss.
The Fifth Elephant, starring Bruce Willis.
It's actually a Guards novel, which I feel like we should do next. No, we should do Going Postal.
Yeah,
Going Postal. That was such a good one.
Mort is really good. Going Postal is really good.
So what'd you think, Missy?
I think it's romp. Like, and I said that about the last one, right? It is a very, like, it's very British. It's quintessentially like British, which is fun. And it reminds you of like just a good adventure story. Like, it could be a Doctor Who episode, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
where it's just like, those random things, fun. They're saving. I thought it was, I finished it, which and I did it in a few days. I know we had last week, or we had a week, but I was invested and I finished it. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I liked the premise that, she wants, or she's a wizard, but everyone's telling her she's not.
Yeah.
I think she's like 9, right? So she's young. And she's learning and she's standing up for herself. And so I thought it was a nice premise. Again, it's like their worlds, like, at one point what was it? A Spurkle? Like,
Spurkle.
She goes with them and she's like the a liar, the great liar.
Yeah. They have there's a tribe of people that like exclusively travel on barges like along the Ankh-Morpork River as traders. And there's even though she's and they can't lie except for they have a chosen representative of their tribe who is their liar. And then everyone's like, but what about politicians and stuff? He's like, what's the difference? Like all of their like officials are and leaders are like get condensed into one title, which is liar.
The great liar.
The great liar.
And they openly walk around with it.
The hat.
Yeah.
Right? Like
there's a lot of hats.
Yeah.
The headology makes me so happy.
It's so good.
The fact that, why am I a witch? Because of the hat? Yes.
Because of headology. It's interesting because it's like, at the same time as it being about, like, there's like a feminism aspect, but it's also like how we view people based off of like, oh, well, obviously she's wearing all black. She's got a pointy hat. Obviously she's a witch. Yeah. And like Granny Weatherwax is all about like, you avoid doing, like, I can do magic, but I try and avoid doing magic as much as possible because otherwise you get attention from beyond. Like, it's like it's not always about magic. It's just like you can give them some like well water and tell them like that you like whisper a charm over it and tell them that this will cure their erectile dysfunction, and they'll do it will because they believe it will.
There's a lot of the just silly pomp of the witchiness, like, and how it changed in the country. The witch is very much kind of like a midwife and like a medicine woman, like healer and things like that. And in the city, it's totally opposite. It's it's all fortune telling and love potions and all that thing. And I think it was funny because when you think about it historically, like you always in the countries, you always did get in the rural areas, you always did get like kind of the one-stop shop type people. Like, well,
yeah, it's because like Granny's position in the Ramtop Mountains is like being the person that knows the medicine to like cure the shit.
She knows the stuff. Yeah, and she can fix the thing.
Yeah,
you were a chirurgeon, you were a barber, you were a bone setter.
Yeah, Well, it's like Barber historically was like also like the surgeon and like person that was able to like patch you up when shit goes wrong. Like they knew like how to set bones and stuff like that, and knew some herb lore because like they're closest to that. You know, it's sort of like the change, and then Granny comes to the city, and she's like, "Oh, people don't care about herb lore anymore. They want to know if like they're gonna find a husband this week."
Yeah, I did find some like there's a bit of silliness to it. Like, you know, we can give you money and old clothes, and like
Granny's like, "Done."
Old clothes, like that was a thing. Like you give witches old clothes, and the silliness of the wizards is one of the things. Like most fantasy books, the wizards are very, very serious.
Yeah.
And not in Discworld. The wizards are the silliest.
The wizards are just goofballs.
Yeah. But
well, and I liked at the end where he was like, "Oh, maybe I'll make you an honorary wizard," and she's like, "Don't you dare!"
Yeah, don't you dare!
An honorary witch.
Yeah, he's like, "Don't you dare!" Yeah,
both of them are just like, oh. And then at the end, like, and then it ends like.
At the same time, they're almost like.
Well, I know that was cute, but didn't the whole school just like wash away?
Almost.
What? No, that was the tower. That was the ants making the sugar pyramid that gave the secret to immortality.
That was what's funny. It was like there was almost like a star-crossed lovers thing with Granny and Q-Tangle.
Yeah, she like beat him in the like wizard's duel, which is just rampant shape shifting.
Yeah,
which honestly, I did like that. I do like the fact that Terry Pratchett does seem to balance his male and female characters. Like most fantasy is typically very, strong male protagonists. The women tend to be like, one might be strong, but for the most part, it's usually very, very one-sided.
Well, it's funny. It's like
to balance very well, and he does it across the board in all of his books.
That's what I love about Guards. His Sergeant Vimes shows up on this like noblewoman's like porch, trying to find out some more about dragons, and basically she like slowly browbeats him into be like, "You're gonna be my husband now," because she's like this giant barbarian noble woman who's like,
snoo.
Yeah. And Vimes is like, "Okay, don't hurt me."
Speaking of that, browbeating and nagging is Granny Weatherwax's main power.
Yeah, she's able to do it better than anyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. Like she sternly gave didn't she give a stern talking to the staff?
No, she can just outstare anything.
Yeah.
She just stares at it, and eventually it will give in, and it will. I believe there's one point where she stares at the staff for long enough that the staff's eyes start watering, which is awesome.
She chastised the staff for having a tantrum because somebody threw it away. She's like, "Oh, everybody does. Stop your belly."
She's 9. What do you want? She's like, what 9-year-old doesn't throw a toy away at some point? Like, come on, get it together, man.
I loved it. It was a wonderful. It's just all of Terry Pratchett's stories are just such a good time to listen to. Now, it is particularly difficult.
Hold on.
Yes.
Hello? All right, we're good. My headset died. Sorry. Yeah, my headset died. Hold on. We are having a moment. I'm sorry. No. Shit.
Perplexing problem.
All right, we're good. I fixed it.
What happened?
My headset died. So then, all right, we're good now.
R.I.P.
Yeah, we're good. Proceed. What were you saying?
We were just talking shit about you, but now that
I know.
and we lost our train of
I
thought.
understand.
And getting back to the book.
I understand.
He looks like if you glued hair onto a baby. My mic's working.
I'm gonna shave my beard off because I have a date tomorrow.
It's too itchy. It's so itchy. It's scratchy.
Get your shit together, man.
Yeah,
and it's red.
Man, get some oil.
You gotta get through it.
Yeah, stop being a
push
baby.
through.
It's like 10:30 on the Friday night, and you're like, I've already had 5 beers, and Ben's like, no, you gotta keep going. People are coming. It'll be fun. And then suddenly it's 11 a.m. on Saturday, and Ben's like, you right in there? And I'm like, no.
We've been there before.
You've been there before.
I don't know what just happened. So,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's a beard. Stop being a bitch.
Oh.
Ooh.
I think he pulls off the beard well. I don't know why he thinks he's got to shave it off just because he has a date.
Didn't realize we were doing a disgruntle off.
So where were we? I forgot where we were before the sound cut off. I believe, Joel, you were talking.
No, you derailed all of it. Start a new train of thought. Begin.
We were talking.
Oh, Ben, you sound different.
Does he sound like your wife?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you're not being married.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, I think it was fun. The whole story was fun. It was cute. It was not a lot of high think, but not in a bad way. It wasn't I don't know if it was super predictable in the way, in the kind of path that you got, but the end was predictable.
Right.
Well, Terry Pratchett.
Yeah.
It's because Terry Pratchett doesn't do traumatic endings.
He has a start, and I feel like most of his novels, they have a start and they have a finish point, and then he just whatever happens in the middle. That makes sense.
I like the journey like that. When she goes in and they teach, because you got to take a lot of Esk's journey as she was learning magic. We're gonna borrow, and Granny's like, "Now don't." And you knew as soon as Granny said, "Now don't try to take control because you'll get lost." And you tell a 9-year-old you could suddenly be an eagle. Fucking that 9-year-old.
They ain't coming back.
And then how bad she was tangled up, and you get to see the difference of the magic,
especially an 8-year-old girl that has 7 older brothers. You think she's coming back?
Her turning the one brother into a pig, which
that was great.
That felt
He's better now.
Yeah, that felt very real.
The whole why should I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
And then Granny's just
She definitely. I think this is a very common trope in fantasy books, where she got too big for her confines. Kind of like the Willow movie. Mm-hmm. Willow's clearly way too smart to be a dirt farmer kind of thing.
What?
You haven't seen Willow?
No.
What?
Have you ever seen? 99% is going to be no, unless it is something to do with Jane Austen.
Well, it's Lucasfilm. Mobius did the concept art. He designed.
You're not gonna. None of the words are gonna hit for Missy. We need to do a watch party.
We're just give up on this. Give up on this thread.
Prime.
I feel like we need an intervention, and she needs to be.
Seen the last Star Wars.
Don't even start. This fucking asshole saw. Oh my God! She saw A New Hope, and then she saw Empire Strikes Back. I was like, I'm good. I don't need to see Return of the Jedi. Darth Vader's like, I'm your father. She goes, that's all I need. And she fucking hangs it up. Hasn't watched a single Star Wars until fucking Baby Yoda came out.
And then she's the fourth time I've heard this rant.
They finally made a cute puppet. That's it. The biggest reveal
this...
in like sci-fi history. I'm like Darth Vader being like, "Luke, I am your father." She's like, "Fucking don't care."
Is my favorite.
Fuck off.
I think this is the fourth time I've heard this rant
me with this
on the stream. Just saying.
The sad part is Melissa's already seen the 2 best Star Wars movies, so it's
but she didn't want to finish it out.
Hasn't she also not seen all of Lord of the Rings?
I've seen Lord of the Rings, and I've seen the extended versions.
Oh,
I haven't seen all the Hobbits.
Oh, that's fine.
Come on, Fitzy.
You do this to me all the time. It's like your favorite thing.
Yeah,
and it's like my only nerd rant that I go on. That's a lie. But anyways,
that's a lie.
She just sits there and she's like, "Oh, I see you're calm and comfortable. I stopped at Empire Strikes Back," and I just flipped the table.
I mean, if you think about it, she's inoculated herself against so much nerd rage, and every conversation about the prequels, this and the remakes, that she just doesn't have to worry about it. She's seen.
I don't give a fuck about it. I just don't understand how you didn't watch Empire Strikes Back. I could not get to Return of the Jedi faster to be like, I want to finish this story out. And she's like, nope, that's fine.
I mean, she skipped 40 minutes.
Bibliophile who's like all about stories. She's like, I don't need to finish this series.
If anyone was wondering, Equal Rights was reviewed in White Dwarf magazine number 87 and was called Screwy and Dotty, and it was concluded that the book was good fun. So if it, like, Brendan, that hits in a good spot for you, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
White Dwarf is so old. They had book reviews, film reviews, and metal CDs, like, in the magazine. Now it's just by GW.
Melissa. It's a Warhammer thing you wouldn't understand.
Warhammer magazine. Yeah. It used to just be a gaming magazine with like D&D and movie reviews, like the Dark Crystal review, and it had like a really short record in there with metal on it that would just come with the magazine. And now it's just by GW, but it used to just be like Dungeon Magazine or Dragon Magazine. It used to be like a newsletter.
I just saw White Dwarf and I got excited, so...
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I knew Brendan would be happy. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot of fun that it introduces a couple of characters that reintroduce themselves. Cute Angle definitely shows up again. Granny Weatherwax. She gets her own series, basically.
She's wonderful, though. So
what about Esk?
Esk, I don't think really.
Esk
doesn't really show up again.
20 years, I think. Yeah. She wasn't featured in a
She
book.
shows up later in another witch's novel, but she doesn't show up again.
Is she a wizard too?
I can't remember. I haven't read all of the Discworld novels. A lot of times
there's a ton of them.
If they made a Wookiee a Jedi, they can make a woman a wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the same universe, but
what's funny is I think Drum Billet is in like a Rincewind novel, like one of the early Rincewind novels, if I remember right.
I think he's in the first one.
He's in the first one. I'm pretty sure. He's like buds with Rincewind.
Mm-hmm.
The worst wizard ever.
Yeah, as opposed to the best wizard ever with it, which is the librarian.
Oh, yeah. Who is super happy to be an orangutan.
Ook.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Except in the Guard novels where he also goes, eek.
If you ask the orangutan too many questions in the Discworld CD-ROM game, he'll just like hit you on top of the head.
Yeah,
because you can ask him and he'll go ook or eek, and then if you ask him enough, he'll just.
What's awesome about like Esk encounters the librarian in the book in this book, and he like protects her. Yep. Because she wants to help clean the library books, and nobody else cleans the library books, and he like pulls her aside and protects her.
But I thought she wanted to go in there because she knew that's where the magic was.
Well,
yeah,
right? Like,
she wanted to. No, she went in there to learn how to read.
Oh,
because she's like, you just have to try, and you'll be able to read, right?
That is the most 9-year-old thought process ever.
It's also irritating. It's like that's the only time you get kind of irritated with the Granny, because obviously Granny knows how to read and write, but she didn't decide to teach Esk how to read and write, at least write.
You don't get when she writes the letters.
Like she's not like
well written.
She's not highly proficient, but she at least knows how to write a letter.
See, I think that's where we screwed up I don't know if Brendan audiobook it or if he read it. I'm pretty sure he read it, but
no. The class recommended.
I said everybody had to listen to it.
Yeah, we listened to it, so I did listen to it. Yeah,
this I feel would be a spot in where you would see the letter and how it was written, and then get an idea of her level of literacy.
Right.
As opposed to somebody stumbling through it and a voice actor stumbling through it. So you don't know. You don't know if she's like very literate or if it's like, a first grader writing their first thing.
Well, see, that's the thing.
For women, the witch's magic is not book magic. It's not learning.
Which is said multiple times, yeah.
Yeah, it's nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's nature and the earth, and you get the idea that the nature tells you what to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just there's other Discworld novels that I wish I would have recommended instead, because I think they're more action packed and stuff or whatnot. But overall, Misty, what did you think of this one compared to, say, I know it's been a year, but like compared to, say, The Color of Magic?
They're fun. Like, they're fun. They're very like, it's just a romp, right? Like it's like a fun time where you're bounding through whatever space-time worlds, like, like you're just it's fun. It's
because I just remember you were not into color magic at all. Like, from what I remember, like we could go back and look at the receipts, but I remember you were like,
I don't like I don't like
the turtle, but the turtle came back a lot in Color of Magic.
I know. Or in Equal Rights. It
twice in Equal Rights. It came back a lot in Color of Magic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like that part.
The whole point in Color of Magic was figuring out what the sex of the turtle was.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's how the book ends. Was they go over the edge of the world to figure out if the turtle had girl or boy parts.
So dumb. I forgot all about that.
Which, like, later Terry Pratchett, he stops caring about the turtle later on. We'll say that.
There's a degree of levity that I just anticipate when I read a Terry Pratchett novel.
Yeah, it's like reading a Douglas Adams. It's like, it's got that same like humor level as like a Doctor Who episode. It's like, it's like we say it's peak British humor, but like I also think it's just like right in that like sort of vein of like, it's not necessarily a satire but at the same time it is it's an homage to like every Terry Pratchett novel is an homage to fantasy. Mm-hmm. And he's going to make fun of every fantasy trope that he possibly can cram into his book.
He does. And I like the fact that he throws in, like, in all fantasy, magic is just like high, super, like, powerful force.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that use it and wield it are like these like greater than great beings or gods or whatever. And in Terry Pratchett's book, magic just makes shit weird or like off the wall. Like the light is so seeped in magic that it just moves really slow, and you can outrun it if you feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or it makes ants into architects. Or gives stones the ability to think.
I think that's an interesting thing is like this wizard college has existed so long that these like people who used to be able to just like throw fireballs on a whim have been reduced to these people that are like basically just like taking physics classes.
Well, and I thought it was funny, like he's like, "Do I want to be known as the first headmaster who allowed women?"
Yeah,
at least I'll be remembered, right?
Yeah,
like, you know, like you.
Well, it's like like that's the thing. It's like they're, but at the same time, it's like you can like it's hinted by Pratchett that this is like the world has diminished. Like you're not at like the height of the fantasy world. Like things have declined to the point where they are at in the Discworld, where it's like oh, these wizards used to be able to like bend the laws of physics on a whim, but now they're like listening to a lecture by a 12-year-old about like how he thinks the world works. It's like, but because they like have decided, oh, this is as far as things go, and they're just lazy and decided to be fat and just
how
like,
to make spells.
Yeah,
they're literally like how
they forget. Yeah, like we haven't had a sorcerer in centuries or whatever.
Yeah, and so that's like, why Simon was so big, is because it's like it's essentially like how, you know, and I don't know.
Well, because like that's
how you hear when you read about, you know, theoretical physics. A lot of them talk about then, or they do research on theorems that other people have come up with. It's not really new stuff.
That's what's like crazy, like the Wizard novels. Like Rincewind knows who the librarian was before he was an orangutan, and like he just doesn't tell anyone because the librarian bonks him on the head whenever he tries to tell anybody.
Yeah, because he likes being an orangutan.
Because he likes being an orangutan because he doesn't want anyone figuring it out. Or like basically a lot of Discworld is like, this is a fantasy world where everything has become sort of like approached stagnation a little bit.
Yeah, magic became institution became bureaucratic and like slow and cumbersome. Yeah.
It almost like hits notes that like 40K does, in my opinion.
Without the grimdark.
Right, without the grimdark. Like there's like humanity is stagnating. There's like stuff that's like going worse. Like later Pratchett novels like are about like how things are improving, but like the early Pratchett novels are very much like 40K-ish, where it's like things are getting worse and worse. Like the wizards can't even like conjure a fireball.
No one has ever said that sentence in history.
Don't know.
Terry Pratchett is like 40K.
No. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
Like, there's a.
No, I know what you're saying, but
the epidermis, like the outer shell,
I'm not saying it's grimdark. I'm saying it's like it's about the fall of magic. It's about the fall of like, you know, like the first Guards novel is about how dragons haven't existed for thousands of years or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
Pratchett has this. When you first look at his works, there's an outer crust of humor.
Yeah.
Looking underneath the hood, he cared very passionately about certain things, about his political beliefs, and there's a history in a lot of his books of overt messages and stances that he took in his contemporary life, and his allegorical references to that in Ankh-Morpork.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a seasoning of humor, but
example of that, because like I think I'm getting what I pick out of it, but it sounds like you've done more digging into it. So like, what is an example of something like that?
Vetinari is an allegory for Thatcherism.
Yeah, 100%. He calls he reduces the one person in the tribe, the liar. He reduces all like politicians, elected officials, mayors, and everything to the job of liar.
Merchants, everything. See, anybody that does anything for profit,
that's very like
is a liar. Yeah,
I mean the book. Yeah, go ahead.
I've taken into this thing is like, he seems to me, now I haven't really gotten, other than one podcast listening about Terry Pratchett from The Wizard and the Bruiser, I have never really done any look into him other than, by all accounts, he was a decent dude. But reading his stories, he seems to be more progressive. And the idea of like people that just do because that's the way it's always been is always like portrayed in like this apex of silliness. Like, well, that's how we've always done it. And how they've always done it ends up being this over the top, silly, like theatrical nonsense.
Right.
That you see over and over in his stories. Like as we were talking before we started, going postal with that one guy who was in the post office for like 50 years and all he wanted was a bigger hat. You know, he's like, I just have this hat. If I could get a cooler hat, everything would be great, because the silliness of the bureaucracy has been broken down to, if you get a hat with wings, you've made it. And it was that kind of silliness is across the board in just about everything that he does.
It's all about taking things to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm. But then focusing only on that makes it almost ludicrous.
Right.
You're like, only this.
It's funny how, like, so like to think about him and Neil Gaiman was...
We were besties.
Yeah. And so it's just funny to see, like, you know, to compare what I have read of him and this, and how, you know, like Good Omens.
Such a good book.
And then you understand why they're besties. You know?
Honestly,
it's like the same thing as like Tolkien and
Lewis.
It's like the same thing as Tolkien and Lewis. Like, that's why they were like kind of opposed to each other in their viewpoints, but like they had a common ground in like their fantasy writing, sort of. But like, this is like 30 years later, you know.
Yeah. They came to a common ground with their faith, and they had disagreements.
They definitely did.
They had disagreements on denomination, but faith brought them together. Yeah, I feel like
Tolkien is a very interesting viewpoint.
You certainly see not like overt activism, but Gaiman also, you know, takes stances in his works that you can clearly see. We were mentioning Pratchett earlier, like examples. I mean, Monstrous Regiment is the entire thing's a statement. If you look at this book, I was making comparisons before the podcast. Mm-hmm. Equal Rights came out in 1987. Not the first fantasy novel to feature a female protagonist, but it's a short list in 1987, and it's also a short list of books where overtly the female protagonist is told, you're not supposed to be that, or you can't do that.
And they were, they were, and the reason I liked that she kept being like, but why?
But why?
Yeah,
and they're
it's against the law, and then Q then goes like, it's against the law. It's like, what law?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is a critique of social institutions, based on tradition that make no logical sense. So.
Right. And even that's something that even Granny comes to terms with. Is like, well, I don't know why. It's just like, that's just not how it's done.
Right.
Yeah, I feel really that resonates real true right now. Is social institutions that don't make any sense right now. I feel like we're right in there right now.
But she's also like supportive, right?
Right.
Like,
but she's
like, you know.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Was like, she tries to make Eskin witch with every fiber of her being, and then she realizes it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, and then S goes, but I thought you said I can't be a wizard. And she's like, well, I can't make you a witch, so we got to try the wizard thing.
Well, I like how S at the end was like, why can't I be both? And Granny was like, I don't know, why can't you?
Yeah, right. And that's what happens at the end. Is like we kind of go full circle. She's like, I hadn't thought about that part. but
I do like at the very end, you know, she's why don't you become a teacher here? We're sorely missing a lot of areas. Yeah. You know, which shows for growth, because again, you said they were listening to physics lectures, and essentially they were like, whenever you watch a period film of like surgeons watching one guy, they're just sitting there being like, yes, quiet, you did wonderful. They're just waiting for somebody to like do something neat so they can be like, that was fabulous, wonderful. Yeah. And then they run off and harump in a corner. But this one, it seems like it ended up as they all worked together in a well-rounded ending. Right. It sets you up for a bunch of new stuff in the end. So, or in the oncoming books, which there are a gajillion.
Yeah.
There was an interesting side note that I had recognized. You mentioned the satirical notion in this that hats denote the person, and denote the job and position. Mm-hmm. I kind of was thinking of it. British society in general, I think that hits much harder for the British reader. I mean,
they love hats.
You think about like beefeaters and bobbies, like barristers in court. You have wigs,
judges, and
judges. Fucking love their head covers.
The crown jewels. I mean, President Kennedy very famously
louder, you've been there.
Wouldn't wear hats. So there's a tradition in this country that if you're running for office as a male, you shouldn't have facial hair. It's just this idea that you're untrustworthy.
Lame.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw your bearded face. I was like, that lying bastard. The only honest one in the group.
I wouldn't vote for him.
Fall into the dark side.
Which only started like if you look back like pre-1940s or whatever. But
it's like there's the American idea
at least have a mustache and be respectable.
There's the American idea in the 60s that you would wear a hat to work, but nowadays it's like maybe a baseball cap. There's such an idea, I think, in British society of hats coming hand in hand with your station. Yeah. Right. The accoutrement of being a ruler. You have your scepter, you have your crown, that sort of thing.
Yeah. If I walk into work wearing a fedora, I'm gonna get some side eyes.
Yeah. I mean, over here, it's like, you have a fedora. What's wrong with you?
Decades ago, like a few decades ago, you had visible tattoos. People would be like, he can't read. You could have multiple.
You're obviously a criminal.
Yeah, obviously a criminal. Nobody bats an eye over my tattoos, and they're like, So
to that degree, I think it's easier to think of Ankh-Morpork as sort of like a satirical look at British society. I was like,
well, he was British. That's the society you write about.
Very much so. And I think for us, there are still things that are very generally applicable. I mean, there are people over here that disliked Thatcher. I mean, technically, America's closer to the Falklands, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, funny observation.
Fun time. Well, I think we've kind of reached the end of our discussion, but Joel, it is your book pick next.
All right.
I believe you told me it was going to be unhinged by.
Put it to the team.
I have 3 choices.
Oh fuck!
So the first one is high fantasy with Dragonlance, Dragons of Autumn Twilight.
Dragonlance. Oh. Okay.
This was the first fantasy book I ever read. Just so you know. Not counting Tolkien, that's everybody's first.
I hate Kinder. I hate Kinder so much. They're the worst. Sucks. They're the worst race. They're the worst race in D&D.
Frank Herbert's Dune.
Oh. Okay, I could do Dune.
Okay.
Or the third one is a personal favorite of mine, which is Gulliver's Travels. I couldn't really.
Oh, I want to do Gulliver's Travels. We talked about this the other day.
Okay, but there's several books of Gulliver's Travels. I only want to do the first 2, Lilliput and Brobdingnag. That's it. I don't want to go to Laputa or the Island of the Huihems. I don't want that. I just want the first 2. Because Jonathan Swift is unnecessarily dense. So I would like to just do those 2.
Wasn't he described as the father of satire?
Yes.
I think, Jonathan Swift.
Yes.
So,
I first read this book when I was like in 4th grade. I loved it.
Yeah. I'm actually... My vote's for Gulliver's Travels. I haven't read that since like...
I already wrote it down. We're doing Gulliver's Travels. I haven't... I've read Dune recently. I'm not a big Dragonlance guy, so we're doing Gulliver's Travels.
Kinder
I am putting more thought into mine as opposed to just randomly picking.
Thank you.
Some of the ones that I picked, and I'm currently slogging through a shit show from what I randomly picked out of whatever the hell Scribed is called now.
Everand.
And it sucks hot garbage, but I'm too far in to quit.
Well,
so I put a little thought into this one.
Well, thank you. So we're going to be doing Gulliver's Travels books 1 and 2 by Jonathan Swift.
In a week or 2?
Let's do 2. Let's do 2. Yeah, Thanksgiving. So we'll do that. So 2 weeks. Maybe we'll do a Warhammer Fantasy next week.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, why can't we do 40k lore? I've been super deep in the Chaos Gods, so.
Oh, you want to do some 40k? Are you going to show up?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
If we're lore heavy.
All right, yeah, we're gonna go. We'll do some 40k.
I've been all into 40k. I just listened to the history of the Emperor this morning.
I believe faction wise, we're at like.
We got another one.
We're at human factions, so we could do some Mechanicus and mutants and stuff like that. Yeah, so we'll do the other human factions.
Adeptus Mechanicus? Sure.
Mechanicus, Auroritas, Mutatis, whatever. We'll talk about that stuff.
Yeah, I just started the Cult Mechanicus this morning.
So we'll do the other human factions that we haven't covered in previous books.
That's gonna do
next week.
So big.
Okay.
He checked out so hard.
Sorry, Missy. She just backs up slowly. Yeah. So, and then 2 weeks from now, we will do the Gulliver's Travels books 1 and 2 by Jonathan Swift. We'll hit we'll do our Dungeons and Dragons on Thursday.
But not on Thanksgiving. Next week,
we will take a break from that, but we'll do a Warhammer episode next. I would prefer Monday if we can, because I would like to be in a deer stand by Tuesday evening.
Sure.
So, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed our Discworld episode of Equal Rights, and we'll see you again on Thursday.